Hmm. Disconnected.
Hi,
Hello?
Carl.
Did we get cut off?
I just realized that we were not that we were not live.
Oh,
So
okay.
we are now live.
Okay.
I think we better start again. So for those of you who are joining us now for the first time, I wanted to talk to you about nurse immigration. It's Tanya Friedman calling in from Kinetics in San Diego, and we have Carl Schusterman with us today. We are going to be speaking about nurse immigration. We've been doing a series of Facebook Live sessions, and Carl has been very helpful to us in sharing information about life in the US and how nurses can navigate the nurse immigration process. So I'm going to read a little bit about Carl and his background, and then we can get to the topic at hand today, which is nurse immigration. Carl has been an immigration lawyer for 40 years, practicing law for 40 years. He served as a trial attorney for the U.S. Immigration and Naturalization Service from 1976 until 1982. And I see Sonia in the background. Hi, Sonia. When he entered the private practice of law, Sonia, for everybody to know, is Carl's wife. She originally comes from the Philippines. Carl is one of the very limited number of attorneys who have been designated as certified specialists in immigration and naturalization law by the California State Bar. For more than 10 years, he's been voted as one of the best lawyers in America and as a super lawyer by his colleagues in the bar. Carl was featured in the February 2018 issue of Super Lawyers magazine. He's been named as one of the top 15 corporate immigration attorneys in the US by Human Resources Executive magazine. His hard work and dedication to immigration law has earned him the highest rating in legal ability and ethics from the prestigious Martindale-Hubbell Legal Directory, and he served as a member of the Immigration and Nationality Law Advisory Commission for the State Bar. Carl is also listed in the International Who's Who of Corporate Immigration Lawyers and the Chamber's U.S. Guide for Leading Business Lawyers. Carl has testified as an expert witness on temporary visas and green cards for registered nurses before the Senate Immigration Subcommittee in Washington, D.C. So Carl, that means you know your stuff, right?
Well, thank you for the intro, and let's get to the questions.
Okay, so we're gonna be starting off with a series of questions on the TN. The first question we got is from a nurse called Manny. She came to the US on a TN, has been living here for a while, and is now looking to get married to a US citizen. So can you tell us how that might work?
Sure. So that probably over 200,000 people every year get their green cards through marriages to US citizens. It's the immigration's job to make sure that the marriage is bona fide, it's a real marriage, and that the person who is trying to get the green card is admissible to the US, meaning they're not a criminal, they don't have immigration fraud, so on. So the US citizen will file a petition for that person, and at the same time, the person will file an application for adjustment of status, which means getting a green card in the US. And also at the same time, they will file for a work card. We call that an EAD, and a travel card as well. The EAD stands for Employment Authorization Document. And on that document, as long as the person is legal in the US so that they're free to travel, that's called an advance parole. Once we file that for them, then we put in proof that it's a good marriage and so on, and that the spouse is a US citizen. And once we file it, they get a receipt. They're called in to take a fingerprint check. And in about 6 months, they get the EAD work card and with the advance parole travel permission on that work card. And now it takes about a year to get an interview. but their person is able to work in the U.S. While they're waiting for the interview. And in a year, we go with them to the interview, and if everything works out fine at the interview, they can get their green card either the same day or within a few weeks afterwards. Actually, I shouldn't say the same day. They get their permanent residence on the same day, and the plastic green card is actually mailed to them. And by the way, just so Manny knows, they get a 2-year green card, and then 90 days before that runs out, hopefully they're still together and they file for the 10-year green card. But in those cases where the couple splits and they're divorced, we can apply for a waiver of the requirement that they still be married, as long as we can show that the marriage was bona fide on the day they did get married. But they'll call them in for a second interview, and it's more complicated if that happens.
Okay, so it really is a journey. I mean, it's really a process for somebody going through this.
Right, and I should mention on our page, on our website at schusterman.com, we have about 80 videos, including the videos that we're doing right now. But of all the videos that we've had, the most watched video, about 500,000 people almost, is getting a green card through marriage.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, from our side, because we are a recruitment company, as you know, we specialize in bringing nurses to the US and have clients all over the US. We don't really have this marriage situation as much. But it's interesting. We've actually had a few cases like that recently. So clearly it's something that does come up. But from our side, it's usually more of a straightforward situation of either a TN or a green card or something like that.
Yeah. One other thing I should mention about it is that when we're applying green cards for nurses, depending on what country the nurse is born in, sometimes it can be quick, sometimes it take many years, especially if the nurse is born in India or China. There's some for the Philippines, but nothing for this. It might take 2 years to get a green card for a Filipino nurse. Through marriage, there's no quota on the number of people that can get green cards through marriage. So that's usually about 1 year, how long the immigration service takes to process the application.
Okay. And Carl, okay, so let's move on to the second question. And I see that we have Jay DeSus, Christine, Sheramar, Christine Tan, Melanis, Mark Lawrence, Benson, Sheramar, all watching us right now. And Benson actually had a question that I wanted to address before I get to our other questions. Benson said, I hold a BSc nursing from the University of Zambia. I have 2 years clinical nursing experience. I have the IELTS average score of 7.5. I currently live and work in Zambia. How do I get a job in the US? So first of all, Benson, you should contact us, because send your resume to recruiters@kineticsusa.com and we will be able to help you. The thing though that you need to know is that you need to pass the NCLEX exam. So that is a base requirement to be able to get a job in the US so that you can get the sponsorship. So important for you to know. Then Sheramar also had a question, Canadian RN to work in the US, what are the requirements? So if you want to, Carl, if you want to speak about that question a little bit.
Okay. So for Canadian citizens.
Carl, sorry to interrupt you, Carl, but your line is not that clear.
Yes, I hear the sound coming back to me, so I'm not sure what it's about.
Okay.
Should I go ahead?
I think go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know why, but I keep hearing the sound coming. But for a Canadian nurse, it doesn't matter where the person's born, but it does matter that they're a Canadian citizen. Once they're a Canadian citizen, if they pass the NCLEX exam, they qualify for a license in the state that they're going to, and they have an employer willing to sponsor them. They must also have visa screen certificate. So let me explain what a visa screen certificate is. The visa screen certificate requires them to take an English test, the IELTS, the TOEFL, and pass the English test, and to submit their college transcripts to the CPF&F, the Council Commission on Graduate of Foreign Nursing Schools, and then they'll evaluate that. If they say that is equivalent to nursing degree, to a nursing education in the U.S., then they're able to get a TN. Canadian nurses do not need a visa. They just come to the airport maybe an hour earlier than normal. They show the paperwork to an immigration agent, and they're allowed to come in for 3 years at a time in TN status.
Okay. So I think that gives a lot of information to Sharima of what is required. And Sharima, if you have specific questions, please contact us, because I know it can be a very confusing process. I also want to just welcome Alexander, Maria, Micah, Meg, Love, and Micah, I see that you have a question. If you are under the TN, can you study at university?
Yes, you can. The TN is specific to a particular employer. So if you're going to change employers, you need to get a new TN. But studying at university, as long as you continue to work full time, not a problem.
Okay. So that's not a problem at all. And I know that's a question we get from a lot of nurses, whether they're going to be studying further, or even whether it's sometimes for family members that are looking to come and study. Can they study on the TD visa? Do you want to explain what the TD is, and can they study on that?
So TD stands for trade dependent. So that would be the nurse's spouse and her kids would be on TD status. They're not allowed to work, but they can go to school in the United States with the TD.
Okay. All right, so let's get back to our questions. We actually had a question from last week, actually, that I wanted to ask before we get to the questions that I had from the various nurses as well. Daisy asked last week, her priority date is April 2005, and her children are aged 10 and 12 at that time, but now they are 25 and 23. So is it possible to take them with her now, when she has her file recaptured, her I-140 recaptured, and she has a new petitioner?
No. The nurse is allowed to immigrate together with her spouse and kids under 21 and unmarried, although, of course, like immigration is a little more complicated than that. So if he was petitioning, and let's say a hospital was petitioning for her to get a green card, and she had a child who was 20 years old, and it took the petition a year to be approved, the time that the petition was pending would be subtracted from the child's age when she's able to get the green card. So if the child's 21 and 6 months, let's say, the petition's been pending for a year, the age under the Child Status Protection Act is 21 and a half years minus 1 year. So it's 20 and a half years. And in that case, her 21-year-old will be able to immigrate with her, but because the 2000, actually, I don't see 100% that her kids come. What I need to know is how long that 2005 priority date was pending, but the kids are probably not going to be able to come because the wait for a Philippine nurse is about a year and a half. So even in 2005, it would have been years ago before when the priority date became current. And then they must seek to acquire a card in 1 year after the priority date current, or else even if the age is under 21, it's qualified. But I do want people to keep in mind that it's not their actual age, but it's their actual age minus the time the petition is pending on the date that the priority date becomes.
Okay, so it sounds like it's pretty much a mathematical, kind of a mathematical calculation that needs to take place. Yeah.
And you know, like pretty much everything else, we have a Child Status Protection Act page on our website. A lot of lawyers, a lot of immigration lawyers, either call me or they watch our video, read our page. It's, you know, I always say it's just simple subtraction. They act like calculus, and they always say, well, Carl, if I would have been good at that, I would have gone to medical school instead of law school. So if some nurses are thinking, scratching their heads, I'm not exactly sure the calculation works, I would recommend going on our website, putting in the Google search, Child Status Protection Act, and watching our videos and reading about how the calculation works.
Okay. Carl, I'm just, you know, the sound is very unclear on your side. I'm not sure if... I'm sorry?
Is there a way for us to stop and restart?
I think, you know what,
it's clear now.
We're almost done. So okay. I can kind of make out what you're saying. So hopefully everybody else can too.
Okay.
You know, but I think we get the main gist of it.
Okay.
So another question that we had was from Gemma. She asked, can you work on multiple TNs simultaneously?
Yes.
Okay, so that's the short answer to that. So how does it work? So for instance, if you are working at a facility, so you're working at facility A and you decide that you want to get a part-time position, can you get a TN for a part-time position? And then when you go through the border, do you have to show the officer your other TN, or can you get, how many TNs can you get? And how does it work?
There's no clear instructions on the immigration service page, but since I've been doing these TNs for years, I'll tell you what we do, and it's always worked. The nurse would do it just like a regular TN, but she would take letters from both employers, 40-hour-a-week employer and the 20-hour-a-week employer, to the border. And when they stamp her teeth in the passport, she'll be able to work for both employers.
So what happens if, say, she decides that she's working at a full-time position and then she has a part-time position as well, the nurse, and it could be a he, I'm not discriminating, a he or she, and then she decides that she wants to leave her full-time position and get another full-time position. Would she or he need to get a new TN for that? True.
She would need to get a new TN. So what we usually do is send her to the border. She's only there for 2 hours, and then have her come back to the U.S. And by the way, it doesn't even, you know, since we're in Southern California, and it's a long way to the Canadian border, a lot of times we'll have the nurses go to the Mexican border because it's closer. They show them a letter from the new employer with all the other documents, license, the visa screen, and so on. And then she comes back, and instead of working for employer number one, now she can work for employer number two.
Okay. So there is, it's quite a lot of flexibility on a TN as opposed to a green card.
Right. Even as opposed to an H-1B or another like a temporary visa, the TN is very flexible.
Okay. So we're getting some more. So hi to Vanessa, to Bettiful, and to Christine had a question now. If the USCIS asks for the RFE, how long does it take for them to give decisions about giving the RFE under premium processing?
So RFE, if you're under premium processing, the petition or the RFE, they have to get back to the hospital or the employer in 15 work days. And I know most healthcare employers are 24/7, but the work day for immigration is Monday through Friday. But I should point out, because a lot of people get confused about that, there's no need to actually do a petition for TN, because the Immigration Service works a lot slower if you file a petition by mail than they do. You just show up at the border. So although you can put in a petition, you can pay an extra $1,500 to do premium processing. It's cheaper, even if you have to fly to Canada and back, to just go to the border or go to a Canadian airport and show the paperwork there, because it'll be decided in probably 14 minutes, not 15 minutes, not 15 days.
So just to go back to Christine's question, and Christina, thank you for asking this question, because I think it's something that a lot of people ask very often. Because I've seen with the USCIS, when they issue an RFE, they don't, they obviously are supposed to keep it within that time frame. But if premium processing was filed on the case, then do they have to answer within that time frame as well? To give an answer if it's approved or denied within that time frame as well on the RFE?
So the initial time frame to get back to the employer is 15 work days.
Yeah.
If they issue an RFE, the 15 days start all over again. So there's 15 days. And they usually give the employer, it's usually 87 days to respond to the RFE. So, it varies per employer. So, we try to get back as quickly as possible on the RFE, but whatever time the Immigration Service receives the response to the RFE, then the 15 days start again.
Okay. So, so Christine, hopefully that answers your question. I see that we have missed a question from Love about the passing score for the IELTS. So the thing, Love, that you need to know is that the IELTS, first of all, you must take the academic IELTS. So that's a key. The other is that you need a 7 in speaking and a 6.5 overall score. Interesting enough, we do a lot of work with an IELTS. You're welcome, Christine. I just see she's saying thank you. We do a lot of work with an IELTS company. They're a UK company. And the reason why we chose them is because in the UK, the score is actually a higher requirement than what it is in the US. They require 7 in each band of the academic IELTS. But here in the US, it is a 6.5 overall and a 7 in speaking. And if anybody needs to pass the IELTS, please make sure that you join the Kinetics IELTS support group. This has gone extremely well. We have, I think, in a few weeks, about 16 or 1700 people have joined, which is unbelievable, Carl, right?
Yeah.
How quickly that's happened. And obviously there's a huge need, it's a totally free IELTS support group for those people who need to pass the IELTS. And it's just our way of wanting to add value to you and provide some extra solutions to help you on your journey of getting to the US, because obviously the NCLEX and the IELTS are the two biggest barriers of entry to come to the US. I think we have time for one more question. Carl, can you talk a little bit? So Raina had a question. When you finish one TN visa, what is the process to renew it? So she got, say, the 3 years, and now she's come to the end of it. She wants to stay on with her current employer, but how does she go about that?
So we recommend that extension application for the TN submitted. You're going to submit it to the USCIS. Do it 6 months before 3 years run out. Of course, if you're going to go to the border, you can just apply and get the new TN on the same day. And you really have to submit the same information that you submitted the first time. You have to have a letter from your employer showing that you have a job as a RN for you in the United States. You have to show that you have the visa screen, because the visa screen lasts for 5 years and then it has to be renewed. And you know, it's really identical to what you have to do the first time.
So no difference in the process.
No. I'd like to just pose a real quick question, because I just this morning, I flew into Los Angeles because I was giving a seminar to a huge hospital system I've been representing for 30 years. And there were a lot of questions about the PNs, but the biggest question was about, oh gosh, don't get old. Yeah, you forget what the question was.
What was the most common question, Carl? Were there so many of them?
There were a lot of questions, but I had the common one in my mind a second ago. Okay.
Well, while you're thinking of that, let me give you the other question that we have at the moment, which is from Priyanka.
Okay.
And that is, what is the TD? And can somebody work on the TD? Who qualifies for from the TD? And is it? And so there are 3 parts to it. And are only Canadian citizens qualified to get the TD if they're coming with somebody who's on the TN?
Okay. The TD is a trade dependent, so that is a spouse or child being married and under 1 of somebody who's on the TN. So you can be Canadian or Mexican to get TN, but if your spouse is born in an unrelated country, they're born in the Philippines, they're born in India, and you're Canadian citizen and they're not, they can still get the TD. They cannot work on the TD, but they can study in the United States, or they can lay on the beach every day. They're not allowed to work in the U.S. with money.
Okay. So in Priyanka's case, so she has she's originally from India. She came to Canada many years ago. She couldn't get into the US because of the retrogression. And she went to Canada. She is now a Canadian citizen, but her husband, I don't know, maybe they married, you know, after she came to the US, but he obviously hasn't been in Canada. He hasn't obviously been in Canada for as long as she has. So he's still an Indian citizen. So in that case, what you're saying is that he can come with her.
Right. He can get it. There's no requirement that you be a Canadian or Mexican citizen to get a TN, but there is a TN.
Okay. All right. So I think that kind of brings us to the close, Carl.
Okay.
Time goes quickly when we're having fun. We still seem to have a few technical issues. I don't know, Carl. I don't know if it's Friday afternoon or what it is, but we just can't seem to come exactly right on the technical side. I am going to take one more question, and I see Janelle is watching. Hi, Janelle. And Christine has another question. Is it possible to file for an H-2B visa while I have an ongoing EB-3 petition?
Well, the nurses, as far as I know, are not included on H-2B visas. H-2Bs are for a lot of different categories of people who are coming to work temporarily in the United States. They have a quota, so it's not as good as the TN, for which there's no quota. This year, the Trump administration has been fairly restrictive on immigration categories, fully gave in H-2B visas because the quota was reached, and the employers were really upset because they couldn't get new people. So for a lot of people, H-2B are good. I should mention one thing about an H-2B that doesn't apply to a TN. An H-2B, you have to go through the Labor Department and show that the employer can find a qualified American for the job. For TN, there's 60 professional occupations who are qualified, but you do not have to go through that. There's no prevailing wage requirement, no posting requirement. You don't have to go through the labor department.
So a much simpler process.
Much simpler, yes.
So your answer to Christine is no.
No, I have never seen a nurse apply for QB. I'm not looking at the list, but I don't think nurses are included on the list.
Okay, all right. So Christine, there you got your answer. With that said, Carl, I think we have covered a number of topics. I know there are a lot more questions that I have got over the last week from various nurses, and then there were some posted into the Facebook Live session today as well. And so I want to thank you for your time. We really appreciate it. I know that you have this week been away traveling, seeing some of the hospitals. I've been seeing some of the hospitals. There is a lot of recruitment and a lot of interest in international recruitment at this time. So we're really grateful to you for giving us your time so that we can share information and make sure that everybody has a good grasp and understanding of nurse recruitment and the nuances that go into it, because it really is, you know, it can seem a complicated process, and it's important to make sure that you have the right facts.
Right, and I just want I'm sorry for the sound quality, but immediately after we stop the Facebook Live, I will go to the site and whatever questions people posted, I will put in a response so they know the answer, and in certain cases I can give them a link where they can explore a little more and get a lot more information on the subject of their.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you, everybody who's been watching. Please make sure to share this with all of your colleagues and friends who are interested in the TN and want to learn more about it. And with that said, have a great weekend, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Next week, same time, same place. Bye-bye.